G'day, my name is Bob Carrier. There was a request made concerning my adventures up in the Arctic where I surveyed the Northwest Passage, so I'm deciding to make a quick video explaining how I got there and so on. I almost had to walk back from the Arctic, but you'll hear about that at the end of the video. First of all, I joined the military at the age of 17. They asked me what I wanted to be, and I said electronics, and they gave me a test, and I ended up being a heavy radar technician. 50 of us started the course, 8 of us graduated, and I also became the first private ever to work on computers. Mind you, it was a big computer, size of a bathroom probably, and only 4K, but it did the job. When I left the military at 22 years old, I figured I'd take the summer off, and what happened though is I applied for unemployment before I even got to my sister's place. Got a phone call that says, no, you're not going on unemployment, you're going to go for this job interview. And there are actually 2 of them they wanted to send me to. One was Spire Aerospace for the Canada arm, working for that company. I didn't go for that interview, I went for the other one first, which was called Marinav, Marine Navigation. Half-hour interview, they says, you're good to go, here's the keys to the car, you're going to be surveying the bottom of Lake Erie. No instructions? Oh, you're a radar tech, you know how to do it. Okay, so I showed up, and it was expensive equipment, satellite equipment at the time, early GPS, totally military ownership, $500,000 piece of, I think it was Magnavox or Motorola equipment. And the way it worked is I put up 3 stations on the American side, 3 stations on the Canadian side, and I used this satellite navigation to figure out the exact location of my units. So you measure to the middle of the antenna. Now back then, the GPS with satellite navigation, you measure to the middle of the antenna. It took 24 hours to get a proper reading. It's not like today where it's so accurate, so fast that you can have a self-driving car. Back then, there was only 6 satellites, so it took all day. The first half hour or so, you'd be about the size of a boat, which is perfect if you're shipping. You don't need to be more accurate than that, but within 24 hours, down to the middle of the antenna. Then we put DMU, distant measuring units, up on those locations on both sides, and then a master DMU on the ship, and depth sounders to figure out the depth of the ocean, of the lake in this particular case. And the rest of my summer was easy peasy, just maintaining the equipment, so it wasn't that difficult after all. After I finished surveying Lake Erie, and by the way, there's some gorgeous shipwrecks at the bottom of that lake. But anyways, after I finished that, I got posted to the Arctic. Now, I just got married the week before I went off to the Arctic on January 23rd. Yes, I've been married 45 years now. Same lovely woman, I don't know how she tolerated me, but that's besides the point. And I took off for the Arctic 1 week after I got married. When you get there, first of all, the reason for serving the Northwest Passage, well, Jimmy Carter, of course, President Jimmy Carter had given away the Panama Canal, returned it to the Panama, or promised to do so by 1999, and Panama was already starting to look more like a fold in the Fran, and further south, the British were being challenged for the Falkland Islands. Now, those are 2 critical sea gates. In other words, you can't go from the Atlantic to the Pacific except going through those points, so they're very important sea gates for us. Matter of fact, the English people of the world controlled all the sea gates. When you think of it, Trafalgar, that's the gates of Hercules, as they used to call it, but the entrance to the Mediterranean Sea. Of course, the Suez Canal was in their possession. Hong Kong, India, South Africa, they're all sea gates. And we allowed free commerce through those sea gates, so it was a nice job. But we couldn't afford to lose those 2 key sea gates, especially if the argument turned and, the Soviets at the time would have gone to help the Argentinians or help the Panamanians. So we needed plan B, and we were plan B, 2 guys in a tent for the winter serving the Northwest Passage. Now, we had a tent. It was half dome, insulated. They came in wooden boxes, and the wooden boxes became the floor. The stove for heating it was simply a diesel barrel with a drip onto a Coleman stove. That's how we heated it. The washroom was a 5-gallon pail, And yeah, you didn't wait too long outside at 55 below. You waste your time. Actually, a funny story is Mike, my partner up there. There's only two of us. He was telling me how the year before, you always have your weapon ready in case of moving snowbanks, polar bears. And the year before, of course, you wait till the last minute before you go to the washroom. He opened the door to go to the washroom, and there's the polar bear. He pumped 3 plugs into the neck. He used a shotgun, sawed-off shotgun with a single slug. Got three shots in the neck, and the bear breathed his last breath across his face before it hit the ground. Needless to say, there's the expression, he was scared, S-H-I-T-L-E-S-S. And so it was kind of funny, but not funny at the time, of course. It was real, very real. Anyways, we were up there. The way it worked, it's similar thing. There was 3 stations like ours. We were Decker Red, there was Decker Blue 200 miles away, and Decker Green about 400 miles away. And there was a master unit, and there was a helicopter that would go and get all the different spots. It would check the thickness of the ice, the depth of the ocean floor, the topography of the ocean floor, of course, and we were trying to figure out what it would take to keep it open year-round. Now, interestingly enough, one of the vehicles you would least expect it to keep ice clear is a hydrofoil. It pushes air through the ice. Ice is permeable, so the air goes through, and then if the ice is floating on air, and then you just go over it, and it breaks all by itself from its own weight. Interesting technology there. But we were just serving the Northwest Passages. Anyways, the key to the story is about the end of March, sorry. We got word from Decker Green that Reagan had just been shot. Now, I have a multi-band radio at the time, a Radio Shack one, and I was asked to search to see what happened, and I found a signal. It was very staticky. Turns out it sounded like Reagan got shot in the head, but it was Brady got shot in the head. But it was a very bad signal, so we couldn't tell. We contacted Decker Green to tell them what we'd heard, but they weren't responding, which was against the rules because, you know, you always had to be in communications up there because, well, you're 48 hours basically from a hospital if something happened. Contacted Decker Blue, contacted Decker Master. Nobody's responding. That didn't make any sense at all. We also contacted, Tupon Inlet, Tuktoyaktuk, Resolute Bay. Nobody responded. Now, it was pretty panicky at the time. It's like Reagan was our generation's Trump type of thing. The media couldn't find anything right with him. And they called him a shoot from the hip cowboy who was going to start World War III. That was President Reagan. History repeats. But so we were very concerned at the time that maybe World War III has started. I mean, the president's just been shot, and we're not getting communications from anybody. It didn't make any sense at all. We automatically went outside to check and make sure our missiles weren't heading their direction or vice versa, but that wasn't the case. Anyways, we expected Drunken Duncan. David Suzuki did some documentaries on him. A great bush pilot, amazing bush pilot. He could fly in any situation. We expected him to come in with our supplies early. He didn't show up, and what was more terrifying, he didn't show up when he was scheduled to show up. So this is getting pretty scary at this point. This is what's going on. We did know that our equipment was still being triggered, so everybody still was working type of thing, but that didn't make sense either. Meanwhile, it was night and day at the time, so you go out at night to go to the washroom. The most spectacular northern light show you ever saw, from horizon to horizon in all directions. Now, I've seen the northern lights before, never like that. It was way beyond expectations, but at the same time, you're kind of wondering if it's nuclear dust clouds and the souls of a billion people. But so a lot of strange coincidences were happening, and they were just coincidences. When Drunken Duncan finally did show up, he says, Decker Red, is my runway ready? He says, we'll have it ready in a few minutes. Now, what we would do is take black garbage bags, fill them with snow, find the most level piece of ground you could find, and mark it off as a runway. Well, he says, it's too late, and he buzzed our tent, right? I must have been 2-3 feet over the top of our tent when he did that. He's a joker. Anyways, so it turns out it was all a bunch of coincidences. There was a solar storm on the sun at the same time as the Reagan assassination attempt, and it wiped out all communications. So that was the reason for that. It also created the most spectacular Northern Lights show you can imagine, which is great, you know, that way. So we found out it was all not a nothing burger type of thing. It was all in their imagination. Didn't really happen. But at the same time, when I got back home about 10 years later or so, I was going through seminary and I was wondering, you know, Lord, did you put me through that for a reason? It doesn't make sense. And it says, I was planning to walk back. I had my bags packed. And the Lord says, well, he says, imagine for a second you had walked back 3 years, about 1,400 miles to the Trans-Canada Highway, if you can keep a straight line, if you can survive. Imagine after such a journey, meeting the most disgusting, tooth-missing, foul-mouthed, stinking person you can imagine, you know, type of thing. Imagine how wonderful and how happy you'd be to meet that person. He says, from now on, when you see anybody, you tell them about eternity, about me, about salvation. Then it's like meeting that person. The joy in heaven from the angels and from the saints and from the Lord, the Heavenly Father, is overwhelming whenever one is saved, no matter how filthy his life has been. So he says, you just do that. So that's what I try to do as much as I can. Anyways, that's my story about the Arctic. I know that the request for the Arctic story had more to do with about global warming. I says, the data's all there. Did it change? Did the ice get thicker or thinner? Did the ocean floor go down or up? You know, the data's there. We can check it out. But they don't want to do that. They want to go back millions of years and say, well, our computer says. Okay. Anyways, that's my story. And I ask you, God bless you, and I hope you enjoyed the story. And that you have a wonderful day, a wonderful life. And remember, you are eternal. Take some time for the Lord. Have a great day. God bless.